Enoch saw in heaven will shake your soul. A divine warning from beyond. Before judgment fell upon the earth, one man walked so closely with God that he was chosen to witness the mysteries hidden from all others. He was not a king or a warrior, but a righteous man whose faith pierced the heavens. His name was Enoch, and what he saw beyond the sky would forever change how we understand the divine. Introduction. The man chosen by God. In the ancient days before the great flood engulfed the earth and before divine judgment was poured out upon the sons of men, and there lived a man unlike any other of his time. His name was Enoch, the son of Jared. He was a wise and righteous man, known not for power or conquest, but for his unmatched walk with the Most High. Scripture tells us that he pleased God so deeply that he was taken not by death but into the realm of the divine. He was a great artificer, a man of understanding, and one who feared the Lord above all else. Because of this, the Lord looked upon him with favor and called him into an extraordinary purpose. Enoch was not merely shown visions or dreams. He was taken up to behold realities unseen by mortal eyes. He was chosen to journey through the mysteries of the heavens, the very uppermost dwelling places of God himself. There he witnessed the radiant stations of the Lord's multi-eyed servants, more brilliant than the sun, the throne of the Almighty seated in unapproachable light, the layers of creation in divine order, and the endless, unutterable worship of the cherubim echoing across eternity. What Enoch saw was not intended to inflate his ego, but to testify to generations that followed. His revelations were recorded in what is known today as the second book of Enoch, an ancient text preserving one of the most detailed heavenly journeys in all religious literature. But before his divine mission could begin, Enoch had an encounter that would shake the very core of his being the moment heaven reached down to call him up. The divine encounter Enoch is taken. On the first day of the month, when the sky was still and his house quiet, Enoch lay resting alone upon his bed. At this moment of calm, a strange heaviness entered his heart, a distress so deep it brought tears to his eyes, even in sleep. He could not understand what this sorrow meant, nor could he shake the weight pressing upon his spirit. It was then, in that mysterious slumber, that something utterly otherworldly occurred. Two radiant beings appeared before him, unlike anything Enoch had ever seen on earth. They were massive in stature, with faces that shone like the sun at its peak, and eyes ablaze with a burning light. From their lips came forth a breath like fire. Their robes shimmered in rich purple, their wings brighter than molten gold, and their hands glowed whiter than snow. They stood at the head of Enoch's bed and called him gently yet powerfully by name. Startled, Enoch awoke, and seeing them clearly, he was overtaken by fear. His face grew pale. His countenance changed, and he trembled at their presence. But the being's messengers from the Eternal spoke with reassurance. Take courage, Enoch. Do not fear. The everlasting God has sent us to you. Today you will ascend with us into heaven. But first speak to your household and instruct them on what they must do in your absence. No one is to seek you until the Lord himself returns you. Without hesitation, Enoch rose, obeying their words with awe. He went to the doors of his home and summoned his sons Methuselah, Regem, and God. With a solemn heart, he told them all that the angels had revealed. My children, he said, I do not know where I am being taken or what awaits me. But hear this, do not turn away from the Lord, nor be deceived by those who worship lifeless gods, for they shall perish. Hold fast to the one who made heaven and earth. May the Lord strengthen your hearts in his fear. He urged them not to search for him, but to trust in the Lord's timing for his return. His words were not of farewell, but of preparation. Enoch's obedience in that moment was not only to God, but also an act of faith for future generations, an example of surrender when the unknown calls. And so, with his final words spoken, the angels took Enoch upon their wings, lifting him beyond the skies and into the mystery of the first heaven. First heaven, the celestial sea and stellar guardians. After bidding farewell to his sons, Enoch was lifted by the angels, borne aloft on their wings as they ascended through the skies. As clouds gathered beneath him and the earth faded from view, he found himself placed upon the threshold of the first heaven. From this vantage point, he gazed upward and beheld the shimmering ether, a realm beyond human comprehension, where divine order ruled the stars. The angels guided Enoch to a vast unearthly sea, greater in magnitude and majesty than any ocean on earth. It stretched endlessly, reflecting not the sky, but a living light. The waves pulsed with purpose, as though breathing with celestial rhythm. Enoch watched in awe as the sea moved not with tides, but with divine harmony. This was the sea of the heavens, a mysterious reservoir, unlike anything he had ever imagined. There the angels brought forth the elders and rulers of the stellar realm's majestic beings who govern the stars. 200 angels appeared before Enoch. Their wings spread wide like polished silver, each one assigned to guide and maintain the motions of the heavens. These were the celestial guardians, ordained to oversee the pathways of the stars and to navigate the courses of heavenly light. He was shown how these angels circled the world, flying with great precision, ensuring that those who sail the seas and travel under the stars are guided by the divine patterns above. Below them, Enoch looked down and saw the hidden treasure houses of the snow, massive luminous storehouses guarded by angels of terrible might. Within them were the sacred clouds forming and dispersing according to divine command. Next, Enoch was led to the treasure house of dew. Its appearance was unlike anything seen on earth, glowing like olive oil, yet flowing like a breeze. Within it were held the forms and fragrances of every flower that had ever bloomed. The place was guarded by radiant sentinels, angels of light, who kept watch over these sacred elements, opening and sealing the storehouses with holy precision. Everything Enoch saw in the first heaven revealed one unshakable truth. All of creation, even down to snow and dew, is maintained by heavenly command. The stars do not shine by accident. The clouds do not move on their own. Above the natural world there is a higher order sustained by servants of the Almighty. But the wonder of the first heaven was only the beginning, for the angels were now ready to lead Enoch into deeper mysteries, into a realm of sorrow and darkness, the second heaven. Second heaven, the place of apostate angels. From the wonders of the first heaven, Enoch was taken upward once more, this time into a realm starkly different. As they entered the second heaven, a darkness fell over him, denser and more dreadful than any shadow known on earth. It was not merely the absence of light, it was a place heavy with despair. The very air seemed to weep. There, Enoch beheld prisoners suspended in space, souls hanging in silence, watching and waiting for the boundless judgment to come. Their appearance was terrifying. These were no ordinary beings. They were angels, yet their light had faded. Their forms were grim, their wings tattered, and their expressions hollow with sorrow. They wept without end, their cries echoing through the void like distant thunder. Enoch, shaken, asked the angels beside him, "Why are these spirits in such torment? Why do they suffer so ceaselessly?" His guides answered, "These are the apostates, the ones who rejected the commands of God. They followed their own will and rebelled with their prince, who now lies bound in the fifth heaven." Moved with compassion, Enoch listened, as some of these fallen ones turned to him, saying, "Man of God, pray for us. Intercede with the Lord." But Enoch, still mortal, humbly replied, "Who am I to pray for angels? I do not even know what fate awaits me." Though he could offer no intercession, his heart was burdened by the grief and ruin of their rebellion. The second heaven was a sobering revelation. Not all angels remained faithful. Even among the divine, choice and consequence endure. What Enoch saw here stood in stark contrast to the beauty of the first heaven, reminding him, and all who would hear his testimony, that glory rejected leads only to agony. But his ascent had not yet ended. What lay ahead was a place unlike any other, a realm of breathtaking beauty and eternal promise, the third heaven. Third heaven paradise and the tree of life. As the angels led Enoch higher, the oppressive shadows of the second heaven gave way to a radiance that filled his soul with awe. He arrived in the third heaven, and there he beheld a realm that no earthly words could fully capture. It was paradise itself, glowing with unspeakable beauty and overflowing with divine peace. The very air seemed alive with light and fragrance. Before him stretched gardens more vibrant than any on earth. Trees heavy with sweet-smelling fruit lined the walkways, their leaves glistening with dew that shimmered like tiny jewels. Every tree bore nourishing, fragrant food, bubbling with exaltation, as though creation itself sang in praise. This was not simply a beautiful place, it was holy ground. At the heart of this paradise stood the tree of life, its glory surpassing all else. Its appearance was as if made of gold vermilion and fire interwoven together, covering all with its radiance. The tree's fruit was of every kind, its roots planted at the edge of the earth, reaching into the mystery of Eden. From beneath it flowed two great springs, one of honey and milk, the other of oil and wine, dividing into 4 rivers that coursed gently through the entire garden and into the world. Enoch saw that here there was no barren place, no decaying thing. Everything was alive, fruitful, and pure. 300 shining angels kept watch over the garden, their voices constantly lifted in sweet and ceaseless praise. Their songs were not like those of mortals. They were melodies of eternity, pure, harmonious, and filled with joy. Enoch marveled and said, "How very sweet is this place." His angelic guides responded, "This is the inheritance of the righteous, those who suffer wrong, but remain faithful, who feed the hungry clothe, the naked lift the fallen, and serve the Lord with pure hearts. For them this eternal garden is prepared." The third heaven revealed the reward of endurance, the promise awaiting those who walk in holiness amid a corrupt world. But just as Enoch's spirit soared in wonder, the angels turned him toward the north, where an entirely different kind of realm awaited. For not all who die ascend to paradise. Enoch was now to witness the place prepared for the wicked, a region of torment and judgment. The terrible place for the wicked. From the glory and sweetness of paradise, Enoch was led by the angels to the northern side of the third heaven. And there, everything changed. What opened before him was not radiant nor peaceful, but horrifying. It was a place of judgment and terror, prepared for those who had defied the holiness of God. Before him stretched a region of absolute gloom without light or hope. It was cloaked in cruel darkness, darker than any earthly night, with a heavy air that burned with a strange, unholy fire. From the ground surged a river of flame, constantly twisting and roaring, while shards of ice and frost surrounded it, creating a paradox of agony, blistering heat and bone-chilling cold existing side by side. The entire place trembled with pain-thirst and unending shivering. Enoch saw merciless angels stationed throughout their faces, hard, their eyes burning with divine wrath. They held weapons not of steel, but of judgment, and moved with a terrifying precision. These were the enforcers of divine justice, appointed to carry out the torment of those who had defied the Most High. He turned to his angelic guides and asked in dread, "What is this place? Why is it so terrible?" They answered, "This is the dwelling of the wicked, those who dishonor God and commit abominations upon the earth. Sorcerers, liars, murderers, the envious and proud, those who corrupt children, those who create idols and worship lifeless images, those who hoard wealth and leave the poor to die. This is the inheritance of their rebellion." The angels described in grim detail those who practice witchcraft and dark enchantments, those who steal, deceive, and delight in harming others, those who exploit the weak and live in lust and cruelty, those who mock righteousness and refuse to know their Creator. All shall dwell in this place of everlasting punishment. Enoch stood in silent horror. He had just seen the reward prepared for the righteous, and now he saw the torment awaiting the wicked. The contrast was absolute. There was no misunderstanding. The justice of God was real, swift, and eternal. And though the place was terrifying, it was also just. With this weight heavy on his heart, Enoch was taken once more this time to behold the wonders of cosmic light and motion in the fourth heaven. Fourth heaven, the movements of the sun and moon. From the realm of judgment, Enoch was lifted once again, this time, into the vast, radiant expanse of the fourth heaven. Here the angels unveiled to him the intricate design behind the cycles of light and time. It was not chaos, but perfect divine order that governed the universe. In this realm, he beheld the celestial mechanisms that regulate day and night, season after season, year after year. The angels showed Enoch the successive paths of the sun and the moon. He saw the rays of light as they poured across the firmament like flowing fire. He measured the circuits of these great lights and discerned that the sun shone brighter than the moon, not just in brilliance, but in power. The sun traveled upon wheels, as swift as the wind, propelled forward with astonishing speed. Day and night, it found no rest, constantly moving, never straying from its ordained course. The sun's journey was accompanied by 4 great stars, 2 on each side, each one commanding 1,000 lesser stars beneath it. In total, 8,000 stars moved with the sun, forming a heavenly procession that circled the earth without ceasing. By day 15 myriads of angels attended the sun, and by night 1,000 winged beings emerged, ushering it into the fiery depths where it rested beneath the earth. Then Enoch saw other beings, mystical elements of the sun, called phoenixes and Kal-Kadri. Their forms were wondrous feet, like lions' heads, like crocodiles, their appearance shimmering like pearls in a rainbow. They had 12 wings like angels and a size beyond human scale. These magnificent creatures accompanied the sun, bringing forth heat and dew as commanded by God. Each morning they sang, breaking the silence of night with celestial music, rejoicing at the return of light. Enoch was then brought to the sun's eastern gates, 6 monumental gateways, each measuring 61 stadia and a quarter. Through these, the sun emerged according to the rotation of seasons and months. It traveled westward and exited through corresponding gates, thus completing the solar cycle of 365 1-4 days. When it descended into the western gates, its light withdrew, and the brilliance of its crown remained in heaven with the Lord guarded by 400 angels. Beneath the earth, the sun paused for 7 hours, only to rise again at the 8th hour in flaming majesty. As the sun rose, phoenixes and halidri sang in unison, announcing, "The giver of light has returned to shine upon the world." Their voices stirred every bird to flutter, every creature to rejoice, for the light brought life. Enoch was shown the sacred calculations that marked the sun's movement, completing a great 28-year circuit before beginning again. He was also shown the moon's journey, 12 grand gates stretching from west to east, each precisely aligned to the sun's own passage. The moon moved through these gates in measured steps, 31 days, 30 days, 28 days, balancing the difference between the lunar and solar years. While the moon's year numbered 354 days, it lacked 12 full days to match the sun's, yet the heavens accounted for every moment. The entire celestial cycle spanned 532 years, calculated to the very fraction of a day. The angels explained how, for 3 years, the quarter day is omitted, only to be restored in the 4th year, ensuring perfect balance between heaven's timekeeping and earth's reckoning. These adjustments kept time pure, uninterrupted by error. Around all these orbits flew angelic spirits with 6 wings, each swifter than wind, more accurate than any earthly clock. In the midst of this glorious movement, Enoch saw armed soldiers of heaven, celestial hosts, serving the Lord with instruments of praise, timpani, trumpets, and ancient organs. Their songs rose unceasingly, voices layered in harmonies beyond human imagination. The sound was so beautiful, so astonishing, it overwhelmed every faculty of the mind. Enoch stood enraptured, his heart lifted by their praise. Yet even this marvel could not prepare him for what came next, for in the 5th heaven Enoch would meet the silent rebels, the fallen watchers, whose gaze no longer reached the light. 5th heaven, the fallen watchers, Grigori. From the harmonious choirs and radiant orbits of the 4th heaven, Enoch was carried upward into a realm shrouded not in light, but in silence. This was the 5th heaven, and what he encountered here would chill him more deeply than fire or ice. Gone were the songs of praise, the flutters of wings, the melodies of angelic devotion. Instead, a solemn hush reigned, a stillness heavy with sorrow and shame. There, Enoch beheld a great company of beings, the Grigori, or watchers, once majestic angels of great stature, now subdued. They had human-like forms, yet their size exceeded that of any earthly giant. But their glory had faded. Their faces were withered eyes, sunken with grief. Their mouths, once filled with praise, were now sealed in sorrowful silence. No song rose from their lips. No prayer stirred in the air. Enoch turned to his guides and asked, "Why are their faces so mournful? Why is there no worship here?" The angels replied, "These are the watchers who rebelled. They followed their prince Satanael and abandoned the light. They were once honored, but when they disobeyed the Lord and descended to earth, they corrupted it with lawlessness." 3 of these watchers had descended to a place called Urban, where they broke their sacred vows. There they gazed upon the daughters of men and took them as wives, committing the unholy union that gave rise to giants, men of violence and ruin. Through their actions, sin spread like wildfire, and the Lord judged them with a great judgment. The worst of them now dwell in deeper darkness, imprisoned in the 2nd heaven. Enoch looked upon these fallen ones, and though they had sinned greatly, he felt compassion. "I saw your brothers," he told them, "and the great torments they suffer. I prayed for them, though I know not what awaits me." Then he rebuked them gently. "Why do you remain silent? Why do you not plead for mercy or serve the Lord, lest you provoke him even more?" At his words, a stirring passed through them. Moved by Enoch's voice, they turned to the heavens and spoke to the 4 angelic ranks above. Suddenly 4 trumpets sounded as one, their blast rolling through the 5th heaven. And then, with one voice, the Grigori broke into song, a cry of lament and longing that ascended like incense before the Lord. It was not the pure praise of the holy, but a broken harmony, fragile, full of sorrow, and deeply human. It was a moment of tragic beauty, fallen beings, remembering what they had lost, lifting their voices once more. But Enoch's journey was not yet over. Beyond the sorrow of rebellion lay the realm of divine structure and cosmic wisdom, the radiant domain of the sixth heaven. Sixth heaven orders seasons and archangels, with the final echoes of the Watcher's lament still lingering in the air. Enoch was lifted once again, this time into the sixth heaven, a realm brimming with light harmony and divine authority. Instantly, the mood changed. What had been silence and sorrow became radiant glory and perfect order. Here Enoch saw 7 bands of angels, each one shining more brilliantly than the last. Their faces glistened brighter than the sun, and yet no one among them stood out, for all bore the same purity, dignity, and heavenly joy. There was no division in appearance, no difference in rank or voice. Their movements were like a perfectly timed symphony, coordinated and purposeful, as though they were one collective soul expressing the will of the Almighty. These were not ordinary angels. They were archangels, servants of high station, entrusted with maintaining the structure of both heaven and earth. Enoch was told they are responsible for studying the movements of the stars, the revolutions of the sun and moon, and the governing of seasons, years, and appointed times. It was by their knowledge that the world remained in balance, and by their vigilance that chaos was kept at bay. Whenever they saw evil rising on earth or among the heavenly hosts, they were quick to respond, not with violence, but with decrees, instructions, and holy warnings. These were heaven's lawgivers, messengers of correction and defenders of divine truth. And all of this they did while lifting their voices in loud, joyful singing songs of worship, truth, and beauty that carried through the expanse of heaven with awe-inspiring clarity. Enoch looked deeper and saw specialized angels among them, those who governed rivers and seas, others who watched over the fruits of the earth and the growth of every plant. Still more were appointed over time itself, marking out years and recording human lives. He saw angels who wrote every soul's story, chronicling deeds, thoughts, and moments before the face of the Lord, keeping account for the final judgment. In the center of this divine order stood radiant beings, 6 phoenixes, 6 cherubim, and 6 six-winged creatures, all standing at the Lord's footstool. Their voices were one, their songs unending, their praise impossible to describe. Their music was so pure, so powerful, that Enoch could scarcely bear its beauty. It was not just song, it was divine alignment made audible. This heaven revealed a deep and sacred truth, that the universe is not random, but ruled by divine wisdom. What seems natural to mankind is in truth maintained by the tireless service of heaven's most noble messengers. And yet Enoch had not seen the fullness of glory. For in the 7th heaven he would witness the blazing hosts, the many-eyed ones, and the distant radiance of God's own throne. 7th heaven thrones and fiery hosts. Beyond the structured brilliance of the 6th heaven, Enoch was lifted by his angelic guides into the highest realm he had yet seen, the awe-inspiring 7th heaven. As he ascended, a blinding light enveloped him, more radiant than the sun, more overwhelming than anything his mortal senses could endure. This was not merely light, it was glory incarnate. There Enoch beheld fiery ranks of angelic hosts, countless in number, shining with incorruptible majesty. These were not just messengers or guardians. They were incorporeal forces, beings of flame and spirit formed to serve in the direct presence of the Almighty. He saw dominions, powers, governments, thrones, and the mysterious, many-eyed ones, their forms swirling with divine intelligence and eternal purpose. Each one stood in reverence, never turning from the throne of God. There were 9 regiments, or heavenly orders, arranged in divine symmetry. Each stood upon one of 10 radiant steps, leading upward toward the glory of glories. The steps themselves were formed of pure light, brighter than gold, and burned with a holiness that was both beautiful and terrible. The atmosphere pulsed with the electric energy of worship, a soundless vibration of holiness that filled Enoch with trembling awe. His heart quaked. He fell to the ground in fear, unable to lift his face. But the angels with him gently lifted him, saying, "Have courage, Enoch. Do not fear." As he steadied himself, they pointed forward, and in the far distance, Enoch saw what no mortal had seen before the throne of the Most High, seated above all heavens, radiating with splendor that defied understanding. Though still far off, its brilliance pierced through every layer of light. And then, the angels revealed to him something even greater, that God himself did not dwell in this heaven, for the Lord resided above, even beyond this glory, in the mysterious and most exalted 10th heaven. In Hebrew, it is called Aravath, the dwelling place of God. He watched as countless angelic hosts ascended and descended upon 10 luminous steps, approaching the Lord, in order each according to rank. They bowed in perfect unity, their voices rising in soft and glorious song. The cherubim and seraphim, 6-winged and many-eyed, never departed from before his throne. They surrounded it, singing in a voice both gentle and thunderous, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. Heaven and earth are full of his glory." Here time seemed to cease. All creation paused to adore. But Enoch's journey had not reached its peak, for now he would be summoned into the very heart of divinity, to stand before the face of God in the blazing heights of the 10th heaven. 8th and 9th heavens, cosmic order, and constellations. After witnessing the blazing ranks and sacred harmonies of the 7th heaven, Enoch was lifted even higher into realms that few knew existed. Here, he entered the 8th heaven, called Muzaloth, in the Hebrew tongue, a realm that governs the cosmic rhythm of time itself. Unlike the blazing brilliance of the lower heavens, this place shimmered with an orderly celestial calm. It was the heaven of season signs and the unseen patterns of the sky. In this sphere, Enoch saw the divine mechanisms that regulated drought and rain, warmth and cold, the very balance of nature sustained by divine wisdom. More than just elements, this realm held the 12 constellations that crowned the firmament, laid out in perfect circles that danced across the heavens with precision. Each constellation had its place, each season, its appointed time, and nothing moved without purpose. The stars, though distant to mankind, pulsed with intentionality, servants of time under heaven's rule. Then Enoch was carried into the 9th heaven, known in Hebrew as Kuchavim. If the 8th heaven revealed the structure of the stars, the 9th unveiled their dwelling places, their celestial abodes, radiant and alive. Here the constellations were not merely points of light, but living mysteries, each possessing its own glory role and appointed movement across the night sky. This was the storehouse of the heavenly lights and the sanctuary of cosmic order. Enoch understood that what mankind sees as distant twinkles are in truth manifestations of divine order, carefully preserved and operated by angelic powers. The entire cosmos was alive with purpose, nothing chaotic, nothing forgotten. Each constellation echoed the will of its creator, pointing back to the throne of the Most High. Through these realms, Enoch grasped the depth of heaven's design, not just in light and music, but in math, motion, and majesty. What seemed abstract on earth was revealed here in glorious alignment. Yet even these wonders paled in comparison to what lay ahead. For now Enoch would be brought to the very summit of creation, the 10th heaven, where the Lord himself dwells in indescribable glory. 10th heaven, the throne and glory of God. At last, Enoch was brought into the highest of all realms, the 10th heaven, called Aravoth in the Hebrew tongue. It was here above all created things, above even the ranks of angels and stars, that the Lord himself dwelled in glory unspeakable. No light of sun or moon could compare. This was the seat of eternity, the throne of the infinite. The angel Gabriel, sent from the Lord's presence, caught Enoch up like a leaf in the wind and placed him before the face of God. And Enoch, overwhelmed by terror and awe, fell to the ground. The radiance he beheld was beyond human comprehension. The face of the Lord glowed like burning metal, alive with fire, casting sparks of holiness in every direction. It was not a destructive fire, but a purifying one, full of majesty, justice, and mercy all at once. Around the throne stood troops of cherubim and seraphim, the many-eyed ones, never silent, never turning away. Their wings shielded the glory they adored. They sang in voices both thunderous and gentle. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The heavens and the earth are filled with his glory. Their worship was not a performance, it was their very existence. Then the Lord himself spoke, "Do not fear, Enoch. Arise and stand before my face into eternity." At his word, the Archangel Michael stepped forward. He removed Enoch's earthly garments and anointed him with divine ointment, glowing brighter than any earthly sun. The fragrance was like sweet dewlight, yet overwhelming, and it transformed Enoch's very being. He was clothed in garments of glory and made to resemble the glorious ones who surrounded the throne. The Lord summoned the Archangel Pravwil, whose wisdom surpassed all others, and commanded him to give Enoch the heavenly books, records of creation, time language, and the mysteries of existence. Enoch was entrusted with divine knowledge, the workings of the sun and moon, the language of every living soul, the paths of angels, and the eternal destiny of mankind. And Enoch wrote all he saw, all he learned, recording 366 books by the Lord's instruction. Then the Lord said, "Sit here at my left hand beside Gabriel." For Enoch had been chosen not merely to see, but to understand and testify. He had not only beheld creation, he had been drawn into it clothed in eternity itself. And yet the journey was not only about sight and wonder, for now Enoch would be commissioned, entrusted with divine knowledge to bring back to the world of men. Enoch's commission and heavenly knowledge. Having stood before the throne of the Almighty, transformed and clothed in glory, Enoch now received his divine commission. He was no longer merely an observer of the heavenly realms, he had become a participant in God's eternal purpose. The Lord in his majesty summoned the Archangel Pravwil, whose wisdom outshone all others in swiftness and clarity. Pravwil brought forth sacred books from the storehouses of heaven, along with a reed of quick writing, a divine instrument, unlike any quill of man. Into Enoch's hands were delivered not just scrolls, but the hidden knowledge of the cosmos, the foundation stones of creation, the structures of time and the destinies of all living things. Through divine instruction, Enoch learned the courses of the sun and moon, the patterns of the stars, and the languages of wind and thunder. He was taught the seasons' years, and appointed times, the order of elements, and the harmony of angelic songs. He came to understand the very roots of creation, how invisible things gave rise to the visible, how life was shaped from non-being into being. Not only did he learn the nature of angels, but also their roles, some guarding rivers and seas, others appointed over harvests, creatures, and souls. He was shown how each human life is recorded before the Lord's face, every deed, every thought, every breath inscribed in the scrolls of eternity. He learned the tongues of men, the rhythms of nations, and the purpose of every generation. With careful hand and divine insight, Enoch wrote all these things, 366 books in total each one, filled with revelations intended not for him alone, but for the generations to come. These books held not only facts and figures, but wisdom commandments, and the songs of heaven, echoes of eternal truth, given to a mortal messenger. Then the Lord said to him, Enoch, sit at my left hand beside Gabriel. And Enoch bowed before the Lord once more, filled not with fear now, but with reverent awe and obedient purpose. What he had seen, he would speak. What he had heard, he would write. And what he had received, he would one day deliver. But before his journey could end, the Lord had one final word to speak, an eternal revelation that reached beyond the stars, back to the very beginning of all things. Final revelation and God's eternal plan. As Enoch sat beside Gabriel at the left hand of the Most High, the Lord himself turned to him with one final and sacred unveiling, a revelation that reached not only across the heavens, but back to the very beginning of time, before light was born, before the first angel lifted its voice in praise. What God now revealed was not simply a mystery. It was his eternal plan, hidden even from the angels. The Lord spoke directly to Enoch, saying, Listen, my beloved. All that you see and all that stands before you, I created not from what was visible, but from nothing. The Lord described how before anything was formed, he alone moved among the invisible, like light flowing across a silent void. Not even the sun, which now blazes with glory, had yet been given rest or motion. It was the Lord alone who carried the burden of creation. He revealed to Enoch that even the greatest of the heavenly hosts, those who burn with fire and radiance, had not known these truths. The origin of the stars, the foundation of the heavens, the blueprint of time and space, all were conceived in the mind of God. Before anything came into being, no creature, no spirit, no power in heaven had been told of it. Only now to Enoch was this knowledge entrusted. The Lord declared that everything visible was shaped from the invisible, each world, each age, each soul woven together according to his wisdom. Enoch was shown that the history of mankind was not random, but already known to God from the beginning, the rise and fall of generations, the course of nations, the judgment of the wicked, and the reward of the righteous. Every breath was foreseen. Every soul had a place prepared in eternity. This was not a revelation meant to terrify, but to awaken awe, to draw hearts toward the Creator, who rules not only over the heavens, but over time itself. In this final unveiling, Enoch came to understand the full breadth of divine justice, mercy, and sovereignty. He had seen the glories of paradise, the torment of the wicked, the hosts of angels, and the fire of the throne. But above them all stood the unshakable will of the Eternal, whose word had spoken it all into being, and whose hand would bring it all to fulfillment. And now, with the vision complete and the revelation given, Enoch's heavenly journey approached its end, but his message was only beginning. Conclusion. The purpose of Enoch's vision. Thus came to an end Enoch's extraordinary journey through the 10 heavens, a journey that began in obedience and ended in divine glory. From the storehouses of snow to the palaces of stars, from the sorrow of fallen angels to the unapproachable brilliance of God's throne, Enoch witnessed realities far beyond human comprehension. He did not dream nor imagine he saw, and what he saw was not for his eyes alone. Through every level of heaven, a consistent truth emerged. God reigns supreme in power, in wisdom, and in justice. The faithful are honored, the rebellious are judged, and nothing in heaven or on earth escapes his gaze. Every movement of a star, every flutter of a wing, every soul born into the world, all is held within his eternal plan. But Enoch's vision was never meant to be a secret treasure. It was a message entrusted to one man for the sake of all mankind. A message of warning for those who turn away. A message of hope for those who endure. And above all, a message of truth that beyond the veil of this world lies a kingdom not built by human hands, but sustained by God's own glory. What will we do with this knowledge? Will we, like Enoch, walk in faith and reverence, seeking the face of the one who rules the heavens? Or will we remain blind to the eternal mysteries revealed, trading truth for comfort and eternity for dust? The book of Enoch gives us a glimpse, a piercing glance into the majesty, justice, and mercy of God. May it stir our hearts. May it awaken our souls. And may it prepare us for the day when we too shall stand before the throne, not as spectators, but as partakers of his everlasting glory. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the 10 heavens of Enoch. If this vision has stirred your spirit, don't forget to share it so that others too may behold the unseen and seek the eternal.
Hello there, friend. I'd love for you to join our community. Hit that subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments below.